I knew at one point I did want to be married, but I never was the girl to dream about my wedding dress. I was never the girl to dream
And it
about
showed. It hurt a little bit.
It's a little bit. Yeah. And I think you bring up a really good point though, because what you did was like opposite of tradition. So we love Baltimore City specifically, and there's nothing against Baltimore County, but Baltimore City.
No, I got some beef with them. When I looked at weddings, all I saw was dollar signs. I just knew that like I didn't want a wedding that would put me behind at the beginning of what was supposed to be the next season of my life.
As a child?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey.
My name is Deandra.
My name is Brian.
And we are here with you today because we are doing something special, something new.
Yeah.
We're doing a podcast / a video thing. I don't fully know what this is.
It's a thing. It's called Video Podcast.
Video podcast. We're doing a video podcast.
Yeah.
And why are we doing this video podcast, babe?
Well, we've been talking about doing this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We've even shot some episodes and we didn't really feel like we landed on something that we're like, we could see us doing this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
However, we actually, I don't know, it's Sunday and we went to the church that I grew up at. It was Father's Day, and today's lesson was on discipleship. And the way that it ties into this is that our pastor was talking about the difference between being a Christian versus being a disciple. And to kind of like really expand and illustrate that point, he said that in the US alone, that there are over 200 different denominations.
Yeah.
Globally, there are 45,000.
Which is crazy.
45,000 different denominations.
What are the different things? What are the differences for 45,000?
I have no idea.
That has to be like one sentence different.
Yeah.
Like one little word.
It's just like, we serve on Wednesday. Church is on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like how many differences there can be. However, I think with that being said, if there are 45,000 different denominations of Christianity globally, I really do think it's a worthwhile conversation talking about what we believe.
Yeah.
It's important to understand what unites us, but I feel like really understanding like key differences is important too. And I think This Is Where We Landed podcast, our goal is just to kind of discuss different topics, subjects, and hopefully we land on something conclusive that is anchored in truth, the Bible, and the message of the gospel through Jesus Christ.
Amen. I love that, babe.
That's the thought.
I love that.
That's the thought. I mean, did I get that?
You did. You did that so well. And I feel like if we didn't say the title and it wasn't like clear, it's This Is Where We Landed podcast. That is the podcast name.
That's the podcast.
And kind of like piggybacking off of that, something that I thought was really special about today's message was kind of like our pastor was sharing, like, we are not trying to convert people to Christianity. Like, we are not trying to win converts. We are trying to get people to become disciples, to actually follow in the way of Jesus. Yeah. And I feel like for this, it's kind of like, it's not the intent for people to become converts to Christianity. Like, of course, that's beautiful if people start to believe. But I think like through like sharing your life and what you do and how you live, like that's a reflection of him all on its own. And we're just kind of hoping that as we share what we landed on and why we landed on it, it's inspiring. And it's just shows Jesus in a different way.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shares a bit about our life and hopefully is, again, inspirational and something that people think they could take something from it. So
Well said, babe.
thank you.
Well said.
Thank you. All right. Well, even thinking about that, I think like today, just being at that church was very special.
It was very fun.
You grew up at that church.
I did.
You did.
Yeah.
And not only did you grow up at that church, we also got married at that church
Yeah.
by the pastor who has been your pastor for, well, was your pastor for how many years?
30.
30 years. And that is huge.
That is huge.
I feel like, I don't know, that's very special. I never had that experience.
Really?
Yeah. And it's very special to have someone have grown up and to see you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful.
And not only did that happen, but he was the one that married us. So it is so special that
Nice.
we were able to return there and like be with someone that married us and brought us to where we are today.
Yeah.
So we didn't even introduce ourselves and who we really are. So
Yeah.
share a little bit of background.
Yeah, my name is Brian. My name is, I said that. My name is Brian. I'm a Nigerian American, born and raised in Baltimore, deported back in 2002. not really deported.
Share a little bit about that. You can't just say that.
Yeah, I know. My parents thought it was a good idea to send me to Nigeria. I was 11 turning 12. I remember it was like, because we got there around the Nigerian Independence Day. So it was around October 1st or so that I went there, and I spent 3 years there going to school. I was in boarding school, and I came back in 2005. I had a thick Nigerian accent.
Did you really?
I did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Where'd it go?
It just left,
How long did it
I
take?
got it out my system. I don't know how long it took, but I couldn't hear it. And so it was the oddest thing hearing people like, man, you got an accent. I was like, really? I feel like I sound like myself.
Aw.
It was probably, I probably sounded like this,
Aw.
but it was
That's
cool.
sweet.
But it was like, it was one of the best decisions my parents made looking back. A lot of my foundational things that I hold near and dear to my heart, like my faith, academic excellence, a true sense of independence that I have. Like a lot of that came from like spending that time in Nigeria.
And I thought something was special too. Like, I love that you were so young and that's when you really got close to Christ, right?
Yeah, I remember journaling like in 2002 about like just giving my life to Christ, and I've probably done it like 5 times. Like, go 4. I've done it a bunch of times at that point, but I
Always
just felt
raising your
like,
hand.
Yeah, basically like, yeah, I'm not like,
I'll make sure this one takes this time.
I'll come up for an altar call. But it felt really special. I wish I had that journal. It's probably somewhere.
It was kind of just like you, like truly giving your life to Christ.
It felt different. It felt like real anchored and stuff. I can't explain it. I grew up in church, but that just felt like a time where I was marked. And maybe it was like being outside in a different country. You just need God in a different way.
No, that's actually very true though. Like certain life experiences, like when you have nothing else, like it's oftentimes when you meet God.
Yeah.
No, that's special.
So, but yeah, that is a significant part of my life, and it was definitely during the formative years. And maybe we'll like have an episode on that. Yeah, that'd be cool. But that's me. That's me in a nutshell. Yeah, that's me, Brian, Nigerian-born American. Nigerian American, born and raised in Baltimore, with the exception of the 3 years in Nigeria.
Yes.
And yeah, and I love Baltimore.
We love Baltimore.
We love Baltimore.
So we love Baltimore City specifically. And there's
Baltimore
nothing
City.
against Baltimore County, but Baltimore
Actually,
City.
no, I got some beef with them. It's like, no.
Baltimore City gets ragged on a lot. And if you have ever heard Baltimore, I'm pretty sure it's been, next to it. So we love the city. And I'm sure we'll do an episode on Baltimore City.
Yeah, but tell them about yourself.
Okay. So my name is Deandra. Born and raised in Maryland, not Baltimore, but I do love Baltimore. And that's where we live.
Reps my city.
I do. And I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What else should I say? I was born and raised in church, but I would definitely say that I always believed in God, but was not a real disciple until I kind of hit a really low moment in college, and I did things that I never thought I would do. And I think, again, at your lowest moments is oftentimes when you are like, man, I have nothing else. I remembered all the little teachings I learned in Sunday school and gave my life to Christ for real this time. And I never looked back. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
And what are we talking about today?
today we're doing This Is Where We Landed on weddings. Weddings. That's our topic today.
Wedding.
And I think I think it's great because literally, like we were saying, it's fitting. We are newly married. We just got married February 3rd.
Yeah, February 3rd, 2024.
So it's been, what is that? 4 months.
4 months.
4 months.
So long.
So long. So we are like the best people to give any type of advice.
We are the authorities on weddings and marriage and like the honeymoon phase.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah. You want to know about the honeymoon phase? We'll tell you about it. It's lovely.
no, it's great. And also I of course, like, time gives you more authority and like things, right? But we're so close to the wedding season. We're in it.
Yeah.
And I think like being next to it in that close proximity is special and important because people are going through it now and people have questions about
Or aspiring to go through.
or aspiring to go through it. So I think it's a great topic, and we're going to kind of talk about where we landed on it and our own experiences in it. So I guess the first question for you is, why did you want to get married? What made you want to do this?
What made me want to get married?
Yeah.
I don't know. I grew up like seeing my parents together. In Nigerian culture, like you're encouraged to get married. Like as soon as you finish college, they're like, "Where's your wife? Where is she? Like what's taking you so long?" Like, but in all seriousness, like I've always seen marriage as this beautiful union between two people, a covenant established before God. And it's something that like I wanted. I wanted to be a husband. I wanted to be a father. And it's really awesome that I'm now in the season that like I've prayed for, I've always wanted. I've always wanted a wife, like someone like, you know, there's a lot of times that like when you're not married, you're kind of searching. I was always searching for that one. I had no player in me. Like I couldn't do it.
You're a sweetheart, man.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I just wasn't built like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love monogamy.
I love monogamy.
It's really good.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah. And so I just grew up seeing like really amazing examples of marriage, and I've had like cousins and aunts and uncles who were like older than me. I had the unique privilege of kind of seeing their lives and what it was like prior to marriage, and I feel like everyone just ended up in like a really, I say it like flippantly like that, like they just ended up, but like I know that there was work involved, but their lives just painted a beautiful picture of marriage. And I'm not there 24/7, but every year, let's say there are family events, there's like, you know, life hallmarks such as a new house, children, like graduations and all that stuff. Marriage just looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, I want that.
Oh, I love that. I feel like my experience is a little bit different. Okay. So for me personally, like I didn't grow up seeing the best examples of marriage. In fact, we weren't like told like, where's your husband? It was kind of just like, girl, get your degree. They might leave you. You want to be settled. You want to be safe. So it was never like, go chase after love. So much so to the fact like our wedding planning and things like that. I just didn't really know how my parents, I didn't know if they were, I mean, I knew they'd be happy for me, but I didn't know how much excitement would be in that because it was never a topic of conversation. Like we never talked about getting married and that being something that they wanted for me, which is interesting. But anyway, yeah, like I didn't really see that growing up, but thankfully, you know, being in a great community at church, like I did end up seeing beautiful marriages that I wanted to emulate. And I was like, okay, great. Like this is actually beautiful. Like once I actually understood what the point of marriage was, it became something that was very beautiful for me.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious to know, since this is something you always wanted and you've dreamed of it and desired it, like, did you dream and desire a wedding? Like, did you always think of how your wedding would be?
No.
Absolutely not at all.
I mean, I feel like I was like an odd child where I was always calculating the cost of things. Like I was hyper fixated on like understanding like the gears and inner workings of things. And so when I looked at weddings, all I saw was dollar signs. I just knew that like I didn't want a wedding that would put me behind at the beginning of what was supposed to be the next season of my life.
As a child?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, your boy has foresight.
Wisdom.
I knew that owning a house was better than renting. And there's some people that would argue against that. But I was like, no, I'm good on that. Like, I know I want my independence, but not at the cost of like setting myself back financially.
Yeah. You're big on home ownership and legacy. I love that.
Absolutely. And so same thing with weddings.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really have an idea of like what I wanted it to look like. I knew who I wanted there. That was the extent. And I knew that I wanted to be married to someone that we gelled, that we had shared vision, shared values. Like, and that was it. Outside of that, like locations and like attire and all that kind of stuff, I really did not have any of that in mind. What about you?
Well, me either. Which is surprising. Yeah.
Hate for each other.
We're just too chill. We're really so chill.
Very chill.
Babe. We're like chill pods. I don't know. But yeah, I never thought about that. Like I knew at one point I did want to be married, but I never was the girl to dream about my wedding dress. I was never the girl to dream about
showed.
I mean, I didn't even. Okay, so listen.
Yeah. My
friend was like dying and desperate for me to like create a Pinterest board for engagement rings.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, why do I have to do this? Like, I just didn't understand the value of it. But now I do, now that you were like relying on her input.
Yes. Like, guys, I was plotting, I was scheming. Like we had been dating for a while and I was just like, all right, bet it's time. Like, I know she's the one. I've asked, I've met her family. I've gotten permission. And so all I wanted was for her to give me an idea. Like, what kind of ring do you want? Which I thought was a simple question.
I didn't know. See, that's the downfall if you never dreamed about it. So personally, I would say maybe start dreaming a little bit. Just kind of look. I mean, it makes it so
much easier for me. Like, what was I supposed to do?
Well, you did good. You did good.
I did good.
I never like dreamed about any of that type of stuff. Yeah. So he ended up just taking me ring shopping.
Yeah. Shout out to Dwetty and Darius, because he was the one that gave me like the intel. He was like, man, just take her to the jewelry showroom. Don't guess.
Yeah. And I was like, opal? Like I just like once I tried it on, I knew what I wanted.
Yeah, we got like the jewelry 101 class or like engagement ring shopping 101 class. It was really cool. But she did not know. She had no idea. I was gonna initially I went the route of espionage. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get her friend to ask her what she wants, and then I'll get the information from her. And her friend was just like, she refuses to send me this Pinterest Pinterest board.
She was asking for months.
She was asking for a month.
Oh, yeah, it was bad. I'm so sorry, girlie.
It's okay.
I love you.
All right.
It's me. It's not you. But yeah, like so given that, how did you expect our wedding to be the way that it was? Because I feel like our wedding, maybe in today's society, is a bit different. I mean, I feel like kind of people are starting to do smaller weddings and things like that.
Yeah.
But we did something different. We did something different. We kind of went the smaller route.
Well, that like, this is just like anecdotally, I heard that those are called micro weddings.
we did a micro wedding.
Yeah.
We did.
So they have a name for everything.
They do. Yeah. Micro wedding. Was ours micro? I thought micro is less than 20.
I thought it was
50
like
to 100 maybe.
Yeah,
is micro. Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So that counts. We were like
Okay.
at 50.
We were like at like a little over
60,
50.
yeah.
Yeah. A little over 50.
Yeah. Not a lot of people.
Yeah. So can you share a little bit about our wedding? Like what was it?
Where do I begin? Our wedding was really awesome.
I loved our wedding.
It was beautiful. Again, having not had a real vision of like what I wanted our wedding to be. And then in all fairness, most guys don't really think about weddings in that sense. Like, from what I understand in Western culture, like it's really the bride's day and like that family is responsible for everything, and so the grooms and everybody else just kind of show up, and so I really didn't have a vision.
Yeah.
Like I had no.
You know what's sad? I didn't either. Well, it's like kind of like I guess on the bride, but I all I knew was that I wanted to feel joy, peace, and love. Like that was my vision.
Yeah.
And I can genuinely say we felt that the whole entire time. And it was different because we just went completely different than I think what's typical in society.
Yeah.
And especially what's different from Nigerian culture.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So where do we start? Like
Where do we start with that?
how did we get here? Should we share like what we did for our weddings first, or
Yeah, like in what aspects? Because there's a lot that kind of goes into a wedding.
Yeah.
I think even in like the initial conversations where we were talking about, I was just like, okay, like let's throw out some numbers.
Yeah.
And I did really, really intense research. I Googled it, like how much does a wedding cost
On average.
On average. And I think it's like around 45,000.
Really? Or 30?
30.
I would say 30.
It was like 30.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. 30,000. I was just like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Well, no, it would be possible, but not within that time frame.
Yeah. Because we also did do things kind of quickly, I feel like, in other people's standards.
Yeah.
Like we got engaged end of October.
End of October. No, November 11th.
Oh,
Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
we got engaged November 11th.
Yeah.
And then we got married in February. So that's a quick turnaround. So that also aided into the fact of like how much we wanted to pay and how, like, first of all, the engagement is a whole thing. We had a little part. It was beautiful. I loved it. I was surprised. Went to a beautiful, you did that. Went to like a beautiful park and he proposed and my family was there. And then we went to like our mentor house and we did a party there and everybody else was there too. It was just beautiful. So that was special. But that was also an amount of money that you had to pay there.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a layer of complexity. Like, because for a season, I wasn't working.
Yeah, that was another thing.
I was an entrepreneur.
No, you're a contractor.
I was a contractor. But I did not have the typical cash flow and stability that would have made me more comfortable spending a large amount of money.
And being able to even save for that.
I had, like, my savings was the Wonderland. Dwindling.
Dwindling. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is another like layer of complexity to it. But I also think something that was really important to us though was like, at least for me, like I knew that it was atypical to get married as like quickly as we did. Like typically people, I don't know what, I think it's a year people to spend in the engagement. We spent like 3 months there.
Yeah.
But for me, like I knew that you were the one.
Yeah.
And I loved you. And I wanted to start our life together. Like we did all the steps. We had the wisdom. We had so many people backing our union, like our parents. It was great. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh, there was so much love. To this day, like my mom, she just gushes over Deandra, and it is the most beautiful thing. And it was a like, it's not a prayer that I like prayed out loud. In pop culture, you just see so many like examples of wives and in-laws, like mother-in-laws
like,
not getting like
feud,
like bumping heads and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, like I was like, Lord, I can skip that.
Yeah.
I can skip that.
Yeah.
And so like to see how loved you are by my mom and how well you guys get along together, that was an answer to prayer. And your parents liked me.
Oh, they like no, they love you, babe.
Really?
They love you.
It's still nice to hear.
Yeah. No, they love you. My dad loves you.
Yeah.
I know he does. And so does my mom. Yeah. Which was another thing for me that was huge because again, kind of going back, like your parents were just like, we prayed for this.
Yeah.
You're the one we prayed for.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we never talked about marriage. So I don't know. I hope they're excited for Brian. He's great. And they loved you. Yeah. And that was another just like a God thing, like that we got along so well. But all that to say, like all the boxes were checked. Like our families were great. They had met each other. They really connected really well. I connected well with your sisters. You connected well with my sisters. Like everything was just great. So I was just like, okay, like I'm good to go. And I don't know. I think that for me, something that I've landed on in terms of wedding is like, don't feel like you have to have all these things in order to have a beautiful day, because that is not true.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. Like I think something that you should keep in mind is like, what do you want to experience on that day? Like I for me, something that I really stood heavily on was the scripture of like, where there is unity, God commands a blessing. Yeah. So I'm like, I want this to be a united day. I want this to be a day where it's just a focus on Brian and I, because the only thing that kept coming in my mind was like, as long as we are united, the day is going to be blessed. Like there's a blessing when there's unity. So my main focus was like, just remain focused on the uniting of two souls becoming one flesh. Like that is a blessing in itself, right? So that was my focus. I was like, I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to feel peace. And we felt all of that, even with something different than what is in it today. And so what did we do differently? Like, how was our wedding different from maybe what you see typically? Like, the cost was definitely significantly lower.
Yeah. So, well, and then there's another layer. I also, like, even not knowing exactly what I wanted the wedding to look like, I also knew that I didn't want to be as concerned with the pageantry of the wedding, whereby the focus of the marriage itself kind of gets lost in the sauce.
Agreed.
And even in how I thought about that, like my decision-making process was like, I want very specific people who played a pivotal role in our union to be present.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I totally agree. And like,
so I think like if we were to start from somewhere, it was the guest list. That's a unique place to kind of start in terms of wedding planning.
That is very true.
Yeah.
So we did want to keep the guest list to close family, and friends that really poured into our relationship in some way or another that actually like knew us.
Yeah.
Like they weren't just like random people. Like they were people that actually like knew us. They knew you, they knew me, they knew the both of us together. We had a real relationship with them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we wanted to keep it at, which was helpful too, because I don't know, there was a time when our list there was two moments. There was a list when our list was just so small.
It was
micro. It was like 10, it was like 15 people. We were like, your family and your mom, your dad, and your sisters, and my mom, my dad, and my sisters. That's gonna be it. Yeah. No, it was me. I think I was the one that was more like, I want to add more people.
Yeah.
But your response to that was a bit like hesitant.
It was because like, so again, I'm Nigerian. And so our families are huge.
Yeah.
Like they're huge. There are a number of people. And I felt at the time that the list would have gotten out of control if we did that. And there was like a level of like guilt. Like it didn't mean that I didn't want certain family members there, but I was just like, at this juncture, it's not feasible.
Yeah.
And I'm prioritizing entering into the next season of life and marriage well. And if it means like not having as big of a wedding as I would have liked, or the broader community would have liked, then I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
And so that was the thought process. And it was, I mean, it hurt a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a little bit.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really good point though, because what you did was like opposite of tradition.
Yeah.
Like traditionally, you invite everybody, right?
Everybody.
Like I feel like almost not getting an invitation can be an offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And something I would just encourage people in terms of like wedding is just, at least where I've landed, is like, you have to know what you want, because other people are going to have their opinions in there. Absolutely. And if you are not set on what you want that day to be, how much you want to spend, how you want to feel, you are going to be easily influenced and swayed by the wind by people that have different opposite opinions than you do.
And goals. Yeah.
And goals.
People who love you and care about you.
Yeah.
But are not supplying
nobody
or anything. You know, we're just not really looking at it from the perspective of like, you're about to begin your life, a union, and you want to do that on the best foot possible. Yeah. You know, not kind of starting behind because you wanted to throw on a show.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agree with that. And also, like I think for me personally, like I'm definitely not anti big wedding. Like I think that you need to do what fits for you. Like I think if a big wedding works and you have the finances and that's what you've always dreamed for your wedding to be, I think that's beautiful. But I also don't think that you should feel shame or bad, or like you have to wait till you can catch up with the finances to have a beautiful day, because that's just simply not true. Yeah. And I think for us too, something that was just really special was just so many confirmations throughout our wedding journey. Like I felt so good about our decision to keep it small, to stay within a certain budget. Like I knew God was speaking to me. Yeah. I know He was speaking to us. And even something that was special was just even having dreams of like how the wedding would play out, and it playing out that way. Yeah. So even for us, like, for example, Brian, another thing that played into us having a smaller wedding was that Brian had purchased a home.
Yeah,
for us.
We purchased a home.
What?
I mean, I know it's
purchased a home. I'm on the deed. Yeah, I am co-owner with him. Yeah. However, it was his like finances, I guess.
Yeah. But and the thing that's so again, this is kind of outside of the realm of wedding planning, but I had a vision. Like I didn't know what I wanted a wedding or any of that to look like, but I knew how I wanted our lives to start.
Yeah.
I had purchased a home already. In Baltimore, and I had been there for a while, but I also knew that like I wanted another investment property or to definitely move into a house that would be both of ours. And so I can't even remember like at what point in time like I started searching, but I just knew that it was like, I want this to be something that we can share together and grow in.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And so that did affected how I looked at the wedding planning and budgeting process as well. I was just like, I want to invite you. I simply am prioritizing setting up our family, our future family for success by owning a home. Y'all know homes?
All of them costs. It's a lot of costs.
It's a lot of costs. And they like, I feel like every day you see a headline talking about how the U.S. is running out of homes. I'm like, y'all not about to catch me.
I'm gonna get a home.
I'm gonna get a home. I'm gonna get a few homes. So, but that definitely affected like my my decision making process.
Yeah.
Just understanding like I want us to like, I don't like, there's nothing wrong with living in an apartment or anything, but I had a very specific vision.
Yeah.
And I believe it's one that we were united in terms of what we want the next season of life to look like.
Yeah. And I truly do. Another big thing about weddings, I think that where I've landed is that you got to invite God in the process.
Absolutely.
I think that it feels easy to just kind of keep God at bay in a sense of like, okay, well, God, he brought us together and that's kind of all he did. But he absolutely wants to partner with you in the wedding as well. And he helps so much in terms of our stress, in terms of keeping the main thing, in terms of unity, and also just like the direction of what we wanted to do. Like, I got a very clear vision even before, I think it was even before you proposed. I don't even know. I can't remember, or shortly after, but I got a very clear dream. It was very interesting of like, and this was before a house was even in question.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't even a thing. So I'm pretty sure it was before you proposed to me.
Yeah.
But I had a dream that there was a wedding ceremony happening.
Yeah.
And it was like outside and it was winter.
Yeah.
It was clearly winter time. And it was like just in row homes. There was just row homes, right? And there was like wedding decorations on all the homes. And I remember just being there. I'm like, oh, someone's getting married. Oh, someone's getting married in their house. And like, we go in the house and like, I remember seeing, it was so interesting because I saw my family in there, my grandma sitting on the couch, my aunt sitting on the couch. I'm like, wow, like that was such an interesting dream. But like going back to it, like it was just so, I don't know, just almost prophetic of just like, man, we ended up having a reception at the house that we purchased, a row home in the winter. And my grandma and my aunt were definitely sitting on a couch in the reception area. But it was special because including God into that, like, I know he gave us that. And it was something that I held on to because I was just like, even through all the stress, even through everything, I'm just like, no, like God showed me this is what's going to happen and that he's here with us. Like he showed it to me before and it just gave me that foundation to know like we're walking right. Like we're good. So I think I was going to say that I feel like when you don't have God in it, like there's no foundation. It's just it's shaky. It's just like, it's hard to remember why you're doing something. But like having God in it, like he speaks things to you. He reminds you of things. He promises things to you. And it's just a lot more stable than try to do it on your own.
Absolutely. So I have a question because right now I feel like this sounds too perfect. It sounds like we had a vision and we just charted it, and we stuck to it, and we got everything that we wanted. Like, what were some of the challenges that you felt as though we faced in the wedding planning process, or maybe even the wedding itself?
Right. That's a great question because it did sound picturesque.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily picturesque. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was very beautiful. But we did face challenges.
Mm-hmm.
We never argued or had differences much during our dating season.
Yeah.
But during that engagement, man, leading up to that wedding, sometimes we'd be riding the car. I'm like, I can't look at this man. Like, I'm just going to look forward because he's really like bothering me right now. Like, like there was definitely a lot of that. There was a lot of stresses. Like I was able to hold on to the faith that like God had us, but getting from where you are to the finish line, if you know faith, it's kind of up and down. Like it's like, I believe and now I don't know. And then I believe again. It's like up and down. And we were kind of in that too. Finances, oh my gosh, like there's so many things that happened during that season, man. Like you didn't have a job for months on months on months.
Mm-hmm.
You spent pretty much all your money on a new house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I was not making much money, y'all. The first job I had was like, I don't even want to say. Anyway, it wasn't all that. I wasn't balling.
Encourage the sex. Saying I don't even.
I wasn't balling. Let's just say that. And then I was transitioning, and then, babe, there's so many things. I was in an apartment.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But that's like its own episode.
That is its own episode. We'll get to that. Anyway,
I feel like that's the next episode. Yeah,
no, that's the next one. But anyway, we financially, we didn't have it all. We didn't even doing a small wedding, it's still expensive.
Yeah.
And we had to have faith and believe and trust that like we could afford everything that we needed.
Yeah.
And it just kind of so happened that I got a new job, which was significantly more than I was making before.
You got a raise.
You got a raise. I got vacation payout because of me leaving that previous job, and it was like $3,000 that I got being paid out. So, and then you had a trip that you no longer did anymore.
Yeah,
you got a refund.
I paid for a trip, like maybe it was during COVID.
Yeah,
but I got in flight insurance or travel insurance on it, and so I got that refunded.
Yeah,
and we used that towards the honeymoon.
Yeah,
and so it's like it
living on a prayer.
But there was definitely like some challenges, and like one of the challenges for me was just like, there's the understanding and the wisdom of like, no, like we're prioritizing entering the next season well and being united. And primarily, I do think weddings are like your vision. Like, what does the bride want? Like most of the decision making in terms of like aesthetic and like even guest size and all that kind of stuff really does come down to the bride. Not so in Nigerian culture. I feel like if I was to describe it, it's mostly about the family. It's mostly about the family. And so it was very hard for me not to feel like I was letting down a lot of people in that season. And then there was the added stress of just like, all right, I'm trying to buy a house. Can I even really afford this house? That was like the question, and like a bunch of circumstances and things that like it really had me calling into question whether or not I was making the right decision with that on top. But ultimately, God was faithful. We got through it. And it was a beautiful testimony.
It is a beautiful testimony. And I think one of the most encouraging, beautiful things was that we did a small ceremony. We did it at the church you grew up in. There was like 60 people. It was intimate and it was beautiful. And it was exactly what I wanted. I remember the pastor was just kind of like talking about like, I was going to do a sermon and like, I just wanted to talk about marriage a little bit. Is that okay to do a sermon? I was just like, yes. Like I actually want you to go in detail about what it means to be in a covenant relationship under God. Like that was really important to me. And that was something that we were able to do because it was smaller, it was intimate. And so many people just kind of exclaimed to us like, that was the best wedding we've ever been to. Yeah. And it was just so special because it wasn't, by the world standards, it wasn't flashy. Like it was just genuine. It was just, I loved you. I love you. And I knew I wanted to marry you. I knew God was in it. And it wasn't something we paid thousands on thousands of dollars for, but it was still beautiful and impactful. And to me, that's something that I implore anyone looking to be married, currently like thinking about weddings and what they want and whatever. The first thing is just kind of like, what do you see for that day? What's the vision? How do you want to feel? Like, do you want to feel calm? Do you want to feel surrounded by family? Do you want to feel joy? You want to feel peace? And then like stick to what you want and include God in it. And I think as long as that is in it, it's going to be beautiful. Like, it's going to be beautiful. Yeah. I think that we put so much pressure on these external things to make weddings look good or to be good, when really the blessing is two people coming together. Yeah. And what about you, babe? What do you think?
What's the question?
The question is, after all of this that we've talked about, what are your last maybe thoughts about weddings? And
there's something that I feel like we absolutely have to address. It almost feels like the elephant in the room. It's just like, we are two good-looking people who find each other incredibly attractive. Yeah. And that is not the only reason people should get married. Yeah. Like, the sexual attraction and urges and stuff. But I do feel like it's a factor that most people try to like brush by and say like, no, we're going to wait a couple of years. I'm just like, if you're, I don't even know how to say it. I was like, if you're really attracted to a person and like you're actually doing things God's way, which means like a covenant relationship, that is the only thing that's like recognized in terms of sex, and it's the only thing that's sanctioned by God. Like, is a covenant relationship between a man and a woman, and anything outside of that, like it's just something that I think is an important part of wedding planning. And there are some people who won't plan a wedding until it's picture perfect and they've saved up for that crazy budget, or and I just feel like there's also wisdom and grace in doing things right. Maybe even doing like this probably isn't popular to say, do a courthouse wedding. If you guys is better to do things God way than to burn with lust, and I feel like that's important to say.
I think that's good to say.
It's an important part of the discussion. Like, we were very attracted to it, like, but we weren't gonna cross any lines in order to do that. And it's not the only reason we got married, but it is an important part.
It is an important part. And I think not only that, but it was just like, when you're trying to honor God while you're dating, there are boundaries that you have. Like, we weren't spending the night at each other's homes. Like, we weren't going to move in with each other. Even though he had purchased another property, we didn't live together until we got married. And I'm like, this is a beautiful house. I'm trying to live in that with my husband. And I want that to start now. Like, I didn't want anything to unnecessarily stop us. And I felt the favor of God. I felt the blessing of family and friends. So I'm like, wait, So if we have the money for this and it can be beautiful how it is, like, wait, why are we waiting? Because I just want you. I just want
Why? Wait.
I'm not those. But yeah, I think that's a really good point, babe. Like,
Yeah. So because I just want to encourage, like, I feel like this happens a lot of time with guys specifically,
you know,
where they feel like they have to be at a certain point. And I know that's not just the pressure from the guy themselves. There's also probably like societal pressure for a guy to have it all together in order to enter into the marriage season or whatever and settle down and stuff. But I just want to say, like, if you find the right person, you guys are in agreement that you want to spend your lives together, and the primary focus is not the cost or the look of a wedding itself, then I'd say, like, move forward, so you're not like falling into sin or, like, you know, having premarital sex and like, oh, okay, like, or like, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I've heard that this is a thing. Guys say, like, I'm married in my heart. Like,
okay,
stop the cat. Stop.
You're not married.
You're not
Anywho.
But that is a real thing that I know, like, guys can kind of fall prey to, feeling like they have to have everything together in order to move on into the next season. But I just want to encourage, like, if you love her, if your community is supportive, if you have the blessing of her parents and father figures and vice versa, then I say take that next step, even if it's not picturesque or the Instagram perfect wedding. Like, that's not a factor, you know.
Agreed. And I agree with that, babe.
Yeah.
And I guess we can end here.
Absolutely.
So where have you landed on weddings, babe? What would be your sum up?
My summary: weddings are beautiful. They do not have to cost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. I feel like the more important focus is the marriage itself. I do think it's important to have a gathering of friends, families, and maybe even faith community that is supportive of the wedding itself, but it does not have to cost a lot of money. So as long as there's agreement between you and your bride, I'm saying this from a guy's perspective, like, go forth in that agreement and just know that something beautiful can take place. And I feel like the more beautiful thing is the marriage itself. And like the wedding, weddings can be beautiful, but it is just a day.
Yeah.
And prayerfully, your marriage lasts far longer, infinitely longer than the wedding itself. So, like, invest in the marriage.
Yeah, that's good, babe.
Yeah. What about you?
I would say where I landed on weddings are beautiful. I mean, we didn't share this, but I remember us saying, like, our wedding day felt like it existed outside of time.
Yeah.
That is how special that day felt.
Yeah.
And I believe wedding days should feel like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you have to spend an arm and a leg to have that feeling. Yeah. I think that you just have to be focused on what you want, inviting God's presence into it, being surrounded by people that love you, and just always remembering, like, this is about the unity of two becoming one to do what God has empowered you to do. That is the beauty. That is the blessing of the day. And I think as long as you keep that in the forefront, I think big weddings are fine. I think they're beautiful. But I also think small weddings are fine and they're beautiful. I think that it's really as long as you keep the main thing. And I don't think there's a price tag that you have to meet before it can be a great day.
Yeah. And so, yeah, this is
where we landed on weddings.
Woo! So, guys, this is our first episode. If you enjoyed this, if you found some value, and actually, like, share your thoughts. Like, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you what your thoughts and experiences with weddings have been. How much did you spend? Like, did you do a small wedding? What were some of the challenges that you faced as you plan for a wedding, or you feel as though you're looking to be married?
Yeah.
Stuff like
Yeah.
that. We really want to hear from you. And anything else you want to add?
No, that's all I got.
All right.
I loved it. And I look forward to more topics with my
Yeah. This is where we landed. Peace.
Bye.